Episode number 57 of People I Know Show. Curt Carstensen today being joined by Jim Ballidis. Jim, where are you located?
I'm out in sunny California right now, but it's not going to be so sunny in about 15 minutes.
Okay, well, the people watching and or listening won't necessarily know that, but we'll see, though. As actually watching the video, I do see some sun peeking through in the background. And for me here in Minneapolis, as we record, it is pitch black, so not a concern over here. Jim, we met just a few days ago. And at that time, I noticed something right away. The way that you engaged with me and asked me questions, you stood out in a way, in a very positive way. So before I get into that, give me a little background on you so I can understand where you are now in your life and where you've been through.
Well, I'm a father of three children, 20, 15, and 13. I'm a lawyer. I have my own law practice with about 12 employees. And I'm also helping Nanette run her company. That's my wife. She runs a product called Happi Tummi through a company that has been in existence for quite a few years. And then I am also an investor and an entrepreneur in several other ventures. So I like to think I'm pretty busy.
Sounds like you are. And I think most people tend to think they're busy, but the more people I meet, I realize people are busy for all kinds of ways. Some reasons are very productive. And I think by meeting you, having this conversation today, and the first one we had a few days ago, which we'll get into, it struck me in a way that I feel like I'm going to be busier now because you've got me thinking in ways that I've thought before, but maybe not as concisely. So if I can kind of bring us back to that moment, we were in Scottsdale, Arizona at an event, which we'll also chat about that as well. But we were just talking, kind of waiting to begin the event. And I was telling you about what I had going on in my life and this podcast and explaining it to you, but you weren't quite understanding the point of it. And I realized that you're not the first person that asked me about my podcast that doesn't quite know what I'm doing exactly. And the problem I'm realizing, and I think people everywhere might connect with this, at one point I had a certain plan, and now as I've been doing it for over a year, it's been changing, and I haven't quite figured out exactly what the differences are. And I'm going to work with that with you today as a part of the podcast to kind of clarify some things for myself.
Well, I think it's great that you've chosen to sit down and talk to me about it. I do have some things I think I can share of my own personal experiences and the things that I've had to learn in the last couple of years with the varying enterprises that I'm involved in. And some of those things are ongoing today too. So we're both going to be helping each other, I think.
That's perfect. And really, as we entered into this, the point of the podcast, every episode, I'm hoping that things I'm talking with my guest is connecting and striking with the audience in ways that makes them and allows them to look back at their life and really use it in a positive way, because it seems so easy for me throughout my life to just kind of forget some things or skip some things or not emphasize things during different stretches of time. And it's been the people I've known, the people I've met, certain people at certain times that have said things to me that have made me think, wow, I've forgotten all about this, or I haven't thought about this way. And those are the conversations that tend to really push me forward. And I'd imagine other people can relate.
Yeah, I think that's very typical. It certainly is true for me. You get focused on something and you think you have an idea of what you want to do, and then suddenly you realize that you're off track. It's not accomplishing what you wanted to accomplish, and you're looking back on it and saying, gee, why didn't I make that change? And that brings us, to what we were really talking about, weren't we, was your vision. What is it that you want to vision for your podcast so that you're answering to the calling both to you and then also to the people that are listening to you? And I have, similar challenges with regard to the product that Nanette markets and also my law firm. So I think when we have a vision issue, that's kind of where we should be starting from. But many times we get started without really thinking about it, or we underplay what that vision is. We sort of set goals instead of visions. This is really an interesting conversation.
It is. And thank you for having it with me. So as I look at my vision for the podcast, it began as a means of me to start something for the first time, put it out to the world, share what I think is important, and as much as anything, get in the habit and the routine of doing it, learning from it, and then making it grow. But now it's to the point where I've enjoyed it. It's been great. I'm going to keep going, but I really want to make that impact that maybe at times I was less focused on others and more focused on just establishing something for myself. Because as you probably know, and others can relate, when you start something new, it's a habit and behavior. If you've never done it before, it's a big change in life. And to put out something every week for now over a year, and it takes some episodes, maybe 6-7 hours of total time. Some probably take 15 or 20. It's a huge shift in my life. And now I'm pretty good at that part of it. And now I really want to make sure that when people land on it for the first time or repeating, that they're really taking something out of it. So I think, Jim, what the conversation I had with you, what it led me to is just to try to get down to a precision within my vision. And at one point it was to bring to light the things I'd learned from different people from different walks of life. And I'm going to keep doing that. But I really think now it is connecting these types of moments, these moments that will impact people when they hear it the way that it hears me, the way that I hear it, in ways that will bring people forward with whatever they're trying to accomplish in life. And so when I say that, I don't know if it's even as clear as it needs to be. What do you hear?
Yeah, I'm hearing very typically kind of the struggle that I had. So I'll tell you a little bit about the 2-year struggle for me to define the vision of my law firm as an example of how I had to go through this. So I've been practicing for 35 years. I have great staff. We get great results from probably top 1% of the lawyers in the United States. So that's not, being a good lawyer isn't really my vision, although that's a requirement. And it certainly was a goal when I started at law, it was to be a good lawyer, right? And so whenever we start on things, we confuse, I think, vision with goal. It wasn't until somebody actually kind of shook the tree a little bit and said, look, go deeper here. What is it that you really want to accomplish? Why did you go to law school? Why did you become a lawyer? What are you answering to? It's something bigger than just, I want to be good at something, because that's a skill. And skill acquisition is a different subject, right? It's what feeds that internal in you that makes you want to do a 15-hour preparation for a podcast that's going to be 40, 50 minutes long, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. And so putting that work in, you're doing it for a reason. And that reason may be deeper than you're thinking in terms of you want to introduce people to the people that are influential in your life, but why? That's the question. That's the really intriguing question that I pose to you. Why, and to who are you talking to? And so in the law firm, as an example, what I really had to realize was it was no longer feeding me my internal, concepts here of what I wanted to do by saying that. And over a year of discovery, I came to the realization that when I became a lawyer, I really wanted to change law. It wasn't until I finally got to the top of my career that I realized that to change law, which I thought was pretty lofty and impossible, I would have to start at the beginning again. What is it about the law that I wanted to change? Well, it wasn't the law itself as much as it was the interaction of lawyers with clients and the experience that they have. Because lawyers are notoriously slow at adopting new and different things, right? Mm-hmm. So you go down to a Starbucks and you're going to get an awful great cup of coffee, and you're going to get great service, and they're going to have an app for you, and you're going to be able to order online. You can walk in, walk out, put your phone up to the cash register and be gone, and you have this great experience. You go into a lawyer's office, what do you think? Books and intimidation, and I don't know what's going on, and I don't know how to do it. And here comes this lawyer, he walks in and he's aggressive and arrogant. That's a vision that had to be changed, right? So That's when I finally realized, oh my gosh, I've been working for 10 or 15 of my 35 years career, just getting better at it, but not necessarily fulfilling me. So that's an example, I think, of how I had to come to that conclusion, because I kept stopping at, well, I just want to be a really great lawyer.
And when I first met you a few days ago, you called yourself the fun lawyer. And I heard you say that, and it sounded new and cool. I didn't understand that either. And I think now as you're explaining this, that leads up to what I know about you now, and maybe what you'll get into, why you've adapted to be a fun lawyer.
Yeah, I've always been a fun guy. As a lawyer, I know that sounds kind of, your listeners are probably going, oh, brother, but if you sat down with me, you'd have a blast. Like yesterday when I was thinking about this podcast and you had asked me to do something, I had a conversation with a bartender who was a really nice young guy. I was asking him kind of, what his vision of the world is, and what he does with podcasts and how he does it, just to kind of get an idea from a younger person what it was doing. We had fun time. We had a great time, So I'm a fun lawyer. I'm a fun guy. And so why not be a fun lawyer? Now, I had a lot of pushback for that. I had a lot of people, both within the profession, like other lawyers, and other professionals and marketing people, et cetera, and so forth, tell me it would never work because people don't equate fun with law. But if you meet me, you sit down with me, and you talk to me, the truth is it's fun to win a case. It's also fun to have people around you that are in good spirits. They really are. Even though it's tough times, we're encouraging. We're moving forward with things. And as I always say, they make a lot of money in football, and they have fun doing it. So we should be rewriting that concept. But that was a middle step for my journey. Really, I had to get to something even more almost ludicrous than that in order for me to get the attention of what I wanted to try and do.
When you talk about fun, something struck me there as you're saying that. It's as I'm learning more about how I learn, and whether it's something I'm seeing or I'm listening to or something I'm feeling, when I'm in a fun environment, I want to be there. And when I want to be somewhere, I'm going to be more engaged, and everything around it becomes, I think, less intimidating. The more fun that you're having, the more you forget about all the things in the world, the insecurities and whatever else that normally might distract your thoughts in a negative way, at least speaking from my experience. So if I'm having fun doing whatever it is, the concerns of the world just begin to fall away, and then I can really look forward to what I'm doing and experience it, enjoy it.
I think that's true. And think of yourself as sitting in a jury pool, and you have a grumpy old lawyer talking to you, or have a lawyer that's light and airy, but they're still giving you the different versions of the case. Who are you going to really kind of listen to more? I mean, the grumpy guy that's arguing and barking at you and making everybody uncomfortable, or the person that really is comfortable and relaxed in the presentation because they know that they're in the right?
Yeah, I know comedy podcasts are very popular, and I had a comedian on a few weeks ago, and I'm realizing the episodes that I've had where it's been a little more lighthearted and fun, I think those are the better episodes because people are having a good time just experiencing it. And then if you can add with the fun, with the occasional laughter and lightheartedness, some really important lessons and stories, that wraps it all together. For like a podcast, that's a reason to listen to a podcast. I'm going to get some laughs. I'm going to learn a couple things. Why not? Why would you not listen to something like that?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So let me take a moment to tell you a silly little joke. Okay. So what's the difference between a catfish and a lawyer?
I don't know the difference between a catfish and a lawyer, Jim.
One's a bottom-dwelling scumsucker, and the other's a fish.
There you go. See, there's
so now we had our laugh.
If we don't get no other laughs the entire episode, at least we got one. We got him hooked, Jim.
Hopefully we'll have lots of laughs through the thing. We're going to be talking. I mean, vision is a serious thing, right? A lot of people struggle with vision. I'm sure some of your listeners they don't quite understand what they're missing. They just feel empty. That whatever they're doing, it just isn't quite working for them. And usually it's a vision issue. And so that's serious stuff, but we can have fun while we're talking about it.
So just with this conversation right now, I've clarified that I want to make sure that no matter what reason I bring someone on to an episode, that there is something kind of fun in a way that I don't think I've always focused on. And that's probably a lesson for almost anything we do in life. If we're not having some amount of fun or focusing on making sure that we have some fun, we lose something. I guess I can't scientifically prove that right now, Jim, but it just feels like when I'm looking back at my life, if I'm having fun, it's just a better time.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And that's really when I started looking at my interactions with clients or my interactions with people that, moms that are really stressed out because their baby is crying with colic or gas or constipation, which is my wife's company's goal and mission, is to solve those things. Those aren't fun times. But if we can be lighthearted about it, and as Nanette always says, she's brilliant at this. I mean, she encourages them by getting them to get out of their misery for just a moment, and then when they're feeling like okay, they can laugh about the situation they're in a little bit, then it doesn't become so heavy, and you can look at options and alternatives, and maybe find the one that works for you.
That brings me back to where we met, and now it just adds the understanding of why it plays out this way. But we met this weekend at a course called Human Interaction Technology Certification with Michael Bernoff in Scottsdale, Arizona. And as a part of that event and other things I've been a part of in the past, they make sure that they interject some fun, some dancing, something that will take you away from this idea that you need to be consuming and learning and getting it, and just enjoy being there. And there's two separate things that can be mixed together. In any time I've ever been anywhere and I've thought it was a good experience, I'm certain that I've had some fun in some way. It's not always focusing and learning and thinking and introspecting, which I enjoy a lot. I think that's a very important part of my life, and the people that I connect with, it can't be that all the time.
Yeah, I really had a good time at the event, and part of it was pretty heavy stuff. I mean, you're really going deep on what it is that you're trying to learn about yourself and about others and your communication style, right? But what was really great about it is I think we do learn when we're relaxed and we're having fun, even if it's not, comedian laughing, belly laughing fun, but still you're having fun. You're enjoying the process, and I think they did a great job at that event of making sure that there was lightheartedness about it. I think I said at the event at one time when somebody handed me the microphone that I'm going to have to go home actually and put on a different gym when I'm a dad and dance with dance crazy with the kids, because they'll enjoy it. They'll have fun instead of me coming home as the lawyer dad, the disciplined dad, okay, I've got, let's have a talk today about homework or whatever. It just seems so much more enjoyable when you're plugged in like that.
And
that was a huge lesson.
It's a great lesson, and it ties into more of my vision. And hopefully by the end of the episode, as we kind of go back and forth from some stories, you can help me really align this well based on hearing me explain it. In those moments where I'm dancing and kind of being goofy or being forced to act out something in some way that makes me uncomfortable, I realize that's a similar feeling to what I have, and I want my guests to have on this show, is being able and willing to open up about stuff, about conversations, about topics that we don't really want to, we don't like to do it, but we know it's good for us to be able to put ourselves out there in a way that we're not comfortable, because it's always healthy to just push beyond what we're comfortable doing. But also it's those types of conversations, the real open, honest conversations about often what I or someone else might be struggling with. That's where you can really make the progress and connect with people in ways that, yeah, this is something I'm dealing with too. I want to learn this better. I want new experiences with this. And that's the thing that I've done occasionally through my episodes of my podcast. And I know that I need to keep doing, because that's what really draws people in, but also adds value.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And one of the things that I did affirm and really realize at the event was that the more that we can really plug into this idea that, that we're not going to worry about being judged. So we're going to be silly at times, right? We're going to do something that's lighthearted, or we're going to do something that is important to somebody else, and we're not going to worry about being judged on ourselves, on our own conduct. Leads us to this freedom, this sense of freedom that we can explore. And when we start exploring it, we start getting gratification, right? And the gratification is what we all want. We want to fulfill our wants, the things that we want in life, or the things, as in your case, the thing you want out of this podcast. You want to enrich lives. I know that. You wouldn't go through the effort if you didn't. And so the enrichment of lives is has to have some sense of vulnerability, both by you and the guests that come on. Otherwise, and that's what I do like about your title of your podcast. I mean, they're willing to admit their wrongs. The places where they made mistakes. And I know you have a segment later in the podcast for discussion of that, but I think it all ties in really well, because if we're willing to admit that vulnerability and that mistake and how we learn from it, other people can learn also.
And I think the brilliant lesson I learned some years ago, not only being capable of talking about something that I feel like I was wrong about, it's the recognition that maybe we're still wrong about other things, and just to get that thought process going. So that's been a big part of this, to get myself, my guests, and anyone taking in to realize maybe there's things I'm doing right now that I've been pretty sure of, that I want to feel like I'm doing the right thing, that just I'm not doing it. It's not the best for me. It's not the best in the world I exist, or maybe just for the world I'm trying to live on my own. And it's an opportunity to look at that and understand that everybody's going through it in some way, or has gone through it, and being open about it allows the opportunity to change.
Yeah, I think that we as a I don't know if it's a U.S. thing or it's a governmental, over international thing, but we put such emphasis on being wrong. that somehow or another it's a bad thing if we're wrong, right? It feels bad if we're wrong. Maybe we were told as kids in the classroom, you got the answer wrong, and so you felt bad. But in actuality, it's just an experience that, we shouldn't be attaching such negativity to. We can be wrong and still be, moving forward and moving through things and not worried about it. It's about evaluating where we are when we're doing something, and is that the wrong solution for that idea or that practice? Not you're wrong or you've done wrong or something like that in a moral sense.
Let's keep going with this, because I find that to be something that's impactful that's happened to me. But also, you and I, just when I recognized that you were both excited and curious about what I was talking about, that made me feel like what I'm doing is important. I have this person standing next to me, which was you at the time, a person I didn't know very well at all, but seemed like you got your things together. You've got some accomplishments in life, and you're here standing me, and you care about what I'm doing. That felt important, and I can only imagine that throughout your life, you can think back to a time or two, probably many more, but a time or two where someone like that crossed your path and really either help you set yourself on the best direction, but also add it to the value that you thought you were bringing to the world, but knowing that other people did recognize it, people that you really liked and appreciated, recognize it as well, kept you pushing forward on that path.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'll relay a story when I was very young in a moment, but that my story will go back, I don't know, 50 years or so, 55 years. So the technology's changed, right? But the reality is going to be the same. The reality is that this person impacted my life because he was speaking to me. And that's what you're doing in your podcast, which is what was exciting to me, is you're speaking to people, you're speaking to their voice, you're letting them hear things that are of value to them, and based upon the experiences that you have and the people that you've met. So yeah, I am excited for you. I think that's awesome. I don't do podcasting, but I was more than happy to come on and talk with you because you do. And I think it's brilliant what you're working on and what you're trying to accomplish. So, my story really goes way back to when I was 13 years old. I was in all kinds of trouble. I was headed in the wrong direction. I had bad grades. I didn't really care about much. And I had a choice. I could either go to the military academy, which was posed to my mother at the time, and she was raising me alone, or I could go to a juvenile hall. And so the decision was, well, let's go to the military academy. And I was there for 2 years. It's the best thing that could ever happen, because they showed me very simply, look, if you comply with these certain rules, then you can have fun and you can do what you want to do. You can play sports. You don't even have to go to study hall. But if you don't, then you have to go to study hall and you lose out on some of the sports that you'd like to play. And you're sitting there while everybody else is outside playing. And on the weekends, you're marching with a wooden rifle. And it was not, that didn't sound appetizing to me. And it took some time for me to figure that out. But ultimately, it turned me around. And because of the commander who took a personal interest in me, and he sat me down one day and he just talked to me. Now, he didn't use the word vision, but as I look back on it, that's what he was talking about. What do you want to do with your life? Would you really, where are you going? And I didn't know how to answer him at 13. But the truth was, as I look back on it, I knew I didn't want to go in this direction. I just didn't know which direction I did want to go. And it was because of him that I really came out of that military academy experience, getting better grades, knowing that I was going to go to college and starting to work on some other things besides just being a mess up,
Yeah, that's very relatable. And I think that's a process, and you went through it at 13, and perhaps you went through a different version of it later. I feel like I just went through that a few years ago, or maybe I'm still going through it now. That is very human to occasionally find yourself not really having a plan. But I think back to my life, those moments where I don't have that plan or that vision or the goals or anything, those are, I think, some of the worst times of my life where I didn't have the direction. So being able to recognize that you don't have that, and I'm sure there are many people out there that haven't had a real good conversation about this, about themselves, or think about it that much. And I'm afraid for them that life is so much more valuable, it seems to me, based on my experience, that when I'm aiming for something, that I'm trying to accomplish something, that everything that I do works its way in that direction. And when I don't have that, and when I haven't had that, I feel very lost. And I don't want that for other people. I want them to recognize what I've recognized, and then get the reminder occasionally that, yeah, maybe we need to keep on considering and reconsidering.
Well, that's cool. That's exactly it, right? That's what Jose, the bartender, was talking to me about yesterday. Because when we were chatting, I said to him, well, he said, oh God, I would listen to that podcast if it's talking about, future vision and stuff, because I'm frustrated. And he felt bad. And for his situation, he was really frustrated because he's a good, smart, intelligent guy going to college, but he's a little late on the, in the college thing. All the other kids are 21, he's 25. And he doesn't know exactly what he wants to do with that, with an accounting degree, but that's what he's focused on. So he has all this turmoil, this inside turmoil. So it's great to talk about vision. It's like, okay, well, what's your real purpose in life? And so if the people, sitting here listening right now have that turmoil in their life, then you're providing them with tremendous insight for that opportunity to look at, okay, I'm not happy with what it is. And instead of sort of feeling lost, it's better if they have some sort of answer or some sort of process they can put themselves through that will help them.
Have you had individuals throughout your life that you really think about that have been a mentor in a way, or whatever other word you might use to describe them, that have helped you get to this point? And what have they told you that really helped? You mentioned the story when you were 13, but what about later? I'm sure you always kind of need those people.
You do. In fact, I think that if you have, I'm still very shy about asking for help. It's a flaw that I really, need to overcome at 63 years old, because, I could use help, and people are more than willing to help. I always just feel like if I'm asking for help, I'm wasting time, I'm wasting their time. I don't know what to ask for. Maybe they judge me. Maybe they, give me wrong information. And I go down a rabbit hole. I don't know how to tell them, no, that's not going to work for me nicely. And so then I feel embarrassed. So I don't ask. Right. But the truth of the matter is, if somebody came up to me and asked me, hey, Jim, you seem like you got something together here. What do you think about this? I'd be more than happy to talk to them like we're talking today, and just spread around a little bit of goodwill, and then get the things that I need when I need them. Right. I have had mentors. I had the owner of the law firm that I worked at mentored me for the first 5 years of my practice, but he had another person in the law office that even mentored me more. It was just a terrific guy. And I built my skills through those two. I also had in college. I mean, I was going to be an engineer, and I'm really an outgoing person. I didn't really fit the engineer profile. I really didn't. I just, me and pencils and stuff. I mean, I was great at math and chemistry, but they're an introverted group of people, many of them, right? At least they were back then when I was going to school. And I'd be excited about talking about the Super Bowl. They'd be excited about talking about thermodynamics. So, I just didn't really have that interest. And I wasn't doing well in school. And actually the department head who, had helped me throughout the time, I messed up. I'll tell the story later if you want, but I messed up on a thermodynamics test. Right in the middle of the test, I just said, who cares, out loud, unknowingly. And he called me up and called me to his room. And I thought, oh no, but he actually gave me great advice. He says, look, go pursue what you want to pursue. What are you doing this for? And I said, well, I'm close. I mean, I think I'm going to need to finish. He said, don't do that, because then you're going to be unhappy when you're in your next chapter. Go do what you want to do. I think that's what the young millennials recognize now. They know, like when you talk to them, they have a big vision. They have a huge vision of what they want to do. Their downfall is that they haven't set the goals to get to that vision, right? My generation, we set goals, we didn't have the vision. Isn't that an interesting dynamic?
It is. And I think even as we talk about it now, I'm still not necessarily seeing as clear as you are the difference between the two. I think I understand the concept, but for my whole life, I think those words would have been used interchangeably. And the way you laid out your story about why you were a lawyer and then what you wanted to do with it and what kind of impact you wanted to make, these are different things all aiming in a similar direction, but you need to be really clear to yourself in order to make the progress that you're truly looking for. And if you aren't clear to yourself, you're not going to make the type of progress that you would feel like you've really done well in your life. And I think it all ties together in ways that we often just don't think about.
Let me try and give a distinction between a goal and a vision, because I think I certainly grappled with this, and I think I have a more clear understanding of it, and I can share it. Think of a vision as something that's uncompromising in you. It isn't necessarily about your job. It isn't necessarily about your career, or that you're going to be good at a podcast, or you're going to be a good interviewer. It's something bigger than you. It's a movement that you're joining, whether you're joining it or you're creating on your own. We talked, about Elon Musk, right? is a visionary, and Steve Jobs, a visionary. They had a movement. They were going to create something new and different, and something different in the way than it had always been done. So for Happi Tummi, the vision has always been for Nanette quite clear. When she had her first baby, is my daughter is 15 now, and when she had her first baby, the baby was colicky in 24 hours. So she went about the process of trying to investigate what to do. And she talked to pediatricians and holistic doctors and doulas and medical people and nurses, and nobody could help her with the colic. All they kept telling her was, you have to grin and bear it. You'll get through it in 4 months. And, oh, by the way, take drugs. You can put drugs in your baby. And she refused. She said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to start that process, and I don't want to do it. And so she went about the business of actually developing the product from trial and error. It's an external remedy. So the whole theme and the vision of that company that she created is no drops or drugs for your baby. And then later, she created something for her father, a similar product, because he had Parkinson's disease. And when you take 8 medications for Parkinson's disease, the 9th medication they're going to give you is something for your stomach. So she created a no drops or drugs for her father as well.
Wow.
So that's the adult version. And so that's the vision. Why are we going to give preemie babies morphine? Why would we do that? It's nuts, but we're doing it because hospitals aren't used to buying a product and putting it in there available to the baby, for whatever reason. Even when we demonstrate it works, they have this reluctance because it's not on a CVP code, a CPT code that they can bill for. And yet they're giving morphine to these little babies. So no drops or drugs is a very impactful vision, right? That's a vision. Now the goal is she wants to deliver a quality product at a fair price and give value to her customers when she's on this journey, and provide for mothers to have solutions for their babies. And then you have to make the minor goals of, okay, this year we got to find a producer of product and got to produce the product and get it ready and package it nicely and get it out to the consumer and have marketing strategies and on and on. So the difference between a goal, I think, and a vision is that the vision never changes. It's uncompromising for that period of time that you're at. Now you may change your vision later about things that you want to do, but it's that huge kind of, it gets in your stomach sort of scary thing that polarizes people, because either they say, yeah, that's great, or I don't care. And if they say that's great, they're going to be your best and highest, interaction, because they're excited about it. So like in your podcast, I'd ask you, I get it. You want to impact their lives. In what way? How do you want to impact their lives? What's the polarizing vision that you'd like to see that's controversial in podcasting?
When you phrase it that way, I think back to why I started this is I find there's so much I don't know. Like it blows me away, the things I don't know or don't think about. And every time one of those things hits me, I just want to share the world with it, because I'm afraid that there's other people that haven't thought about these things. If something's striking me and it makes my life better, I want to put that back out there. And that really seems to be the overall trend of every episode. Someone has something, they've done something, and if they didn't exist in my life, I wouldn't have had this thought, or I wouldn't have done this thing. And I feel like my life wouldn't be as good as it is now because of this. And there's so much more that I want to keep bringing in and learning. And as these things happen, I want to keep pushing it out if I feel there's value there.
So the interesting thing is you're bringing forth uncommon conversations to a platform where people can actually learn things that they're not going to hear in their everyday tribulations, unless they met that person or they came across it. It's brilliant. That's why you started it.
It is.
They're learning uncommon things from people that you wouldn't normally listen to. If you called me and said, hey, Jim, I want you to be on to be a lawyer, and talk about law. Oh, snooze away. I mean, if you haven't had an automobile accident recently, or a dog bite, or some reason why it is that I need to represent you, you'd tune out. So that's not what you're doing, which I think is great. That's why I was excited to talk with you, because talk about law, but and I'm more than happy to do so. But but that's not what we're really doing, is it? We're really talking about the lawyer with an experience that we can share that's going to help people.
what draws me to you isn't the fact that you're a lawyer. I think one thing that's never really drawn me to anyone is what they do for a living. Like on its own, to me, that doesn't really matter. It's what drives someone and what are the things that they're learning that they're excited to talk about. And that's what I want to have conversations about. And you can talk about the work you've done all day, and I'm sure you've done a lot of great things, but I really am in tune with these lessons that you've learned when you've switched paths or really pushed forward on something because something has hit you and connected with you in a way that made you recognize who you are as a person and what you want to be doing with your life. And that is what it fascinates me. And those are the people that have those types of stories and have a different story. It's going to be a different story every time. And people are going to say things in every conversation. Someone's going to say something that someone somewhere certainly hasn't heard before. And I love that. Those are the conversations when I have one of those, like I had with you, that no one had struck me in that way that you did in a long time. I want this. I just want this in my life. And I can't imagine I'm the only one.
Well, what's really amazing is when you're talking about it, your whole face is lit up on the screen. And it's just amazing because it's down into you. It's what you really want to do. And you're bringing that out and you're doing it, which is awesome. So I'll give you another contrast. We talk about goals versus vision. So for my law firm, as I mentioned, my vision is that we change the relationship of the client with the lawyer, right? So to do that, one of the goals that I set was that the client would no longer be wondering what's going on in their case. So I set about the business of creating the only one in the country that exists right now. It's a real-time app that a client can go on and look at their case. Why can't they look and see what's going on their case real-time if they want on the internet at any time? So they don't have to call the lawyer if they don't feel like they need to. And that's it should be a given, right? That's the goal. That's the goal associated with the vision. That's the distinction, is it's the action that I'm taking in order for me to feed the vision. So that's the difference. That's another example of maybe a difference that people can latch onto. So if you're saying, I want to be a really great podcaster, that's a goal. But if you're saying I want to be a really great podcaster so that I can fulfill the vision of enhancing the lives of others with information that they're not going to find anywhere else, that's the vision.
Wow. Thank you for separating those two things for me, Jim.
Well, and what's cool is I think that listeners are going to see that and they're going to say, you're right. I don't want to just be an accountant because it's not fulfilling in today's environment. I mean, it was great 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, but in today's environment, people want to belong to something bigger than them. They don't want to just be an accountant. Not everybody, but most people, they have a deep-seated desire to do something more impactful with their life.
And I find that until I was open to the idea that I needed to learn more, do more, meet new people, until that was really a priority, I wasn't making a lot of progress in that area. It's the things that I've learned in the recent years and the people I've come across have changed me dramatically. And I know the people that are going to be drawn to these types of conversations are probably already on that path, but I also picture a former version of me that if I was slapped in the face with this conversation, it would have done something for me. So I want to look at both of those types of people, the people that are already looking for this and the people that aren't looking for this, but might really like it when they hear it.
And wouldn't it be great if we skipped the 35 years of my being a lawyer because I didn't have the quote skills end quote at the time and started out this way, where I really just took the firm to a whole new direction because of a vision that I had. And at 35 years ago, I created this relationship where clients could do things, that we're talking about doing now. I mean, that's just one example of the 3 or 4 agendas that I have that answer to the clients. And it's been an age-long problem. I don't know what's going on my case. I'm intimidated by the lawyer and I never get a call back. Who wants a lawyer like that? But that's what happens. So can you imagine there are great lawyers out there that do those 3 things, but had I had that vision more clearly, I could have impacted the legal world, which is what I want to do. I want to set a bar that other lawyers, they're not going to get business if they don't accept the responsibilities of doing what I'm doing. That will change the legal profession. That's the vision. That's exciting to me.
When you describe that, I recognize that in that case, commonly, probably besides working with you, there's a separation where people don't feel like they're an equal. And I just think the way that you're looking, what does the client that I'm working with want and need, you're trying to make them as equal in this process as possible. And I find when I go through life and I don't feel like I'm an equal with someone, whether that's some kind of insecurity with me or whether that's the way that they're presenting themselves, I don't like being a part of it. It's an awkward thing where it's not directly engaging and there isn't a mutual interest. And those are the types of conversations I want to avoid. I want to like get away from the situations where the other person doesn't seem to equally be interested in my wants and needs as I would like to think that I am interested in theirs. And if people can realize that and look to connect and engage with people engage with others where they feel like equals, that's where you really can connect and make the progress.
Yeah, I think pomposity is an obsolete. I think people that really have this idea that they're better than other people really haven't followed the trend of what's happening in the real world. And they're going to be, ultimately, they're going to be very lonely. They're just not going to be a part of society's success. And I can give you 100 examples of people that are, like, I surround myself with entrepreneurs because I'm in an entrepreneurial business, right? Along with my law practice and my helping the net. So I surround myself with positive, entrepreneurial, spirited people like you and the people that we were engaged with this weekend. And even, I go to a Allison Maslin event. I don't know if you know who that is, but it's a terrific event that's put on every 6 months where you have 500 entrepreneurs there and you're talking about business and vision and the things that you want to accomplish. And as when you're surrounding yourself with this, I start to realize that as a lawyer, I was really doing a disservice to my clients because I wasn't really plugged into what is really going on. And guess how many lawyers are there? Like 2 out of 500. Two. That's how bad the profession is of, this idea that I'm better than, I'm better than you, or my profession doesn't allow me to do that. It's ridiculous. And so ultimately what's happening, I think, is that society is starting to recognize that we're all the same. We're just, let's get on with the business of finding a commonality of something we want to achieve to make our lives better and the people around us better as well.
I love your perspective on life, Jim. It's so valuable to me, and just to have your energy and excitement for this type of conversation and topic is something that I know I enjoy in this moment, and I feel like I'll be able to reach out to you from time to time in the future, and you're not going to see it as a burden. And sometimes, as you were talking about asking for help, and this happened this weekend, I came to the realization that I don't like to impose. It's not that I don't like asking for help necessarily. I don't like to impose. And somehow the way that we've built this rapport to this point, I don't feel like I'm imposing on you. I hope I'm not. And regardless if I think I might be a little, I'm not going to stop from that because I had enough of a conversation with you where I think we see the world the same way. And we're open to helping people that feel like they need our advice from time to time. I love when people come to me. I mean, at some point, I suppose it can be overwhelming where you can't do everything for everybody. But I'm at a point in my life still where if anyone needs something and wants to have a conversation like this in any way, I want to do that. Please, this is my life. Or what else am I doing with my life if not helping people and serving others? As long as my needs are met, which they are, that's what I want to do.
I have a great thing for listeners to adopt that I adopted for myself when you're thinking about not wanting to impose. What you really, and I want it to be heard here. This is really, really good. And here's the reality. You're doing me a disservice if you don't ask me for help. You, in this case, or anybody that wants to call me and ask me for help or an insight or share an idea, you're doing me a disservice because I enjoy it. You're robbing me of the opportunity to enjoy my life in another way, in a different perspective, with either a sharing of knowledge or a collaboration of knowledge or a sharing of something bigger that we can develop together, a connection of some sort. You're robbing me. So, if nobody ever asked me for help, then I wouldn't be on a podcast. I wouldn't be able to share all this. I wouldn't have as much fun as we're having right now.
That's great.
So you got to be asking. And so should your listeners. That you need to ask people, because you'll find more likely than not, most people, particularly people that have gone through some trial and tribulation, are more than happy to share their success and why. In fact, I have a very good friend of mine who's finishing a book. It'll be great for your listeners if they're interested in it. It's not released yet, but if they go to Paul Rhines, RHINES.com, they can opt into the pre-sale list and get on the list and decide if they want to look to buy it. But it's a brilliant book. And what he's done is he's interviewed thousands of successful people, and he came up with a success formula. Because the book's called the Success Algorithm. And but the point is, every one of these people, names that you and I would never, I'd be intimidated to go up and talk to Colin Powell, but he did. He just went up and talked to him, and every one of these people were willing to talk to him. Rod Stewart. The list of names is incredible. And all these people that I would have said, no way am I going to go up and talk to them. He did. And they were, every one of them to the nickel, every single one of them were willing to talk about their success, what they thought it meant, and how they got there and achieved it, so that he could actually craft an understanding of that from all of those people. It's brilliantly terrific. And, I hope he can get it out early enough, but nevertheless, that I think underscores how important it would be for us to be willing to ask for that help.
And I think what comes from that, the people that were unwilling to be a part of that project, perhaps, I'm sure he asked others that didn't, but those people that are willing, if someone shares what you and I share about wanting to help or wanting to be a part of other people's successes, the people that were willing to join in that are those people. They're the ones that feel like they have something to share and want to share it. So it all plays together. And if you're trying to surround yourself with a certain type of person that's going to lead you in the direction and help you get to where you're trying to go, it is those people that see you as an equal, even though perhaps their accomplishments are so large in some way that maybe you think they wouldn't see you as an equal. They probably do. And it's just somehow based on our culture and some people gaining more fame and notoriety that we think that they don't, but we don't know them. So why should we act like we do know what's going on in their mind when clearly we don't? We don't know what's going on in anyone else's mind ever.
Yeah, exactly. And we spent some time learning that this weekend, didn't we?
Just
stop trying to figure out what they're thinking, because we're not going to know unless they tell us, or unless they communicate it with us.
Between that book and a few other things that we talked about, all the links will be available for those taking this in to connect with whatever was most interesting to them. Let's transition now, though, Jim, if you would, to the personal growth segment. You've shared some stories from your life, and I'm sure there are many. When I talk about personal growth, and so much of this conversation really is personal growth, is there another story that you're willing to share that would define you growing as a person in a way that you think is valuable for someone listening?
Well, the personal growth side of things, I've done so much growing in the last couple of years, and particularly in the last 5 years. And I've mentioned some of these reasons, but this weekend was an example of something that I took a leap. I took a huge leap this weekend with you and with, I don't know how many people were there. What was it? Do you think 200?
75, I think. Currently, there's other events that I've been to with Michael Bernoff that have 200, 300, 400.
Yeah, it was a great insight for me to be able to go there and to really go deep into what it is was my communication skills and how to improve my communication skills with others and with myself, right? And in doing that was huge, because how often do I say, yes, I'm a very successful lawyer, but how often do I say, I'm a little concerned about that. I'm afraid to try that. I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid to show up who I really am. I'm afraid to, tell a judge to, shut up because he's being rude to my client. I ended up in jail for that one, by the way. That wasn't a good idea for a night. But he had, he was being rude to the client in front of the jury. It was not appropriate. And I had to stick up for the client. I just took the wrong tactic to do it. I should have done it in a different way.
You didn't have all the communication skills that you now have, so you would have done it differently.
Yeah, I used a horrible word. It's one that you don't want to use in the courtroom. So he and then the next day he wanted to have a meeting with me, and before the trials commenced again, and the jury didn't know. It was just after the trial. I spent the night in the jail. I had to have my staff bring me a new suit and clean clothes and all this other stuff. And he wanted me to acknowledge that I was wrong. And I told him I was wrong about using the language that I did, but I was dead on about what you were doing. And you were wrong to be doing that before a jury, in front of the jury, for my client. You're prejudicing my case, you're prejudicing the outcome, and it's not fair to my client. And, and he wouldn't admit it. He was not a well-liked judge anyway. He's no longer on the bench, but it didn't matter. The point of it was, my communication skills can always be honed, right? And the self-talk, I have the same self-talk that you and everybody else does. We all have these things where we say, I'm not sure I'm good enough. I'm not sure I can get it done. I'm afraid to try it. I don't want to fail. I'll be embarrassed if I fail. What if I try it and I don't succeed? I'll lose money. I'll lose time. I'll lose effort. Time's precious for me right now, right? And when we were in that discovery this whole weekend about the things that are most bothering us in that sense. So the personal growth part of that for me is so fresh because of this weekend, about really taking a look at, well, why? I'm very successful. I've been successful my whole life at everything I've tried. Why am I stumbling on this one thing that I'm trying to do? And it's because I'm holding myself back because of, a fear of failure. I'm new to the idea of Happi Tummi, my wife's product, being in that business. And so, I'm wondering, well, do I have the skill set to help her like I should? Now here, you wouldn't think that I'd be saying that, but that's a truth. That's a vulnerable truth. And yet, when I started examining it, where have I dropped the ball before? I haven't. So why am I doubting myself right now? And you and your listeners, and we all have this internal conversation we could quiet, right? We could go through and quiet.
I think we all have it, but sometimes when we have it, those things that make us most insecure or feel like they're holding us back, I think in those moments, we're not recognizing that people that have had great successes in whatever way, and let's use you as an example now, you've done all these things, lived a long, good life so far, but you're still learning these things. You're still growing. You're still struggling to get more because you want more from your life. You're never going to not want more from your life. Anyone that wants more from their life now is never going to get to the point where they're totally satisfied. I don't think it's in our nature. We're always going to keep growing. So it's continually recognizing the things that we can grow in and doing more and doing better and whatever pushes us forward, that's not going to end. So we got to keep on seeking that growth. And it seems like that's what you did this weekend. And in that room, there's all kinds of people doing things that I look at them and I feel some of my insecurities that I would like to get rid of. Like, they're way more successful than me in all these kind of ways, but they're dealing with whatever they're dealing with too. It never ends. It's not going to end. We need to recognize that there's always going to be something else that we're going to have to work on, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't work on the things that we currently have, because the more that we do, the more that we, instead of just doing what we've been doing, which makes us who we are, the things that we can keep on improving on are going to push us towards the things that we want to become. And we're not going to be able to become those things unless we address the issues that are slowing us down.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And whatever's holding us back from actually taking a step. There's a book called the Big Leap. It's by Gay Hendricks. Gay as Gay. Gay Hendricks. People can find it on Amazon or whatever. It's a terrific book. And the premise of the book is simply that if you're hesitant to take this step right now, take it, because what is really happening is that internally you're battling some uncertainty, but the reality is that there's a door opening for you that it's good for you. You just have to do it. And so many times we take that, we stop ourselves, right? We don't do it because we feel like, that dialogue gets going, talking to us about, oh yeah, you don't want to spend the money, or I don't want to risk it, or I don't have the time, or I don't have the energy, or, somebody might reject it. And instead of just going after it, just having fun, okay, so I can't dance. So what? Let's go out and dance. I'm not a very good dancer, but I can go out and dance.
Dancing's a perfect example. Not a good dancer. Yeah, you can tell the people that have had a lot of work at it and a lot of really skilled precision of how to dance. But when I see someone dancing and it looks like they don't have those skills, it doesn't matter as long as I see that they're having fun. And by those people, the people that have the least amount of skills dancing and having fun doing it, makes it fun for everybody else, which is an example of why there's no reason not to dance, even if you don't think you can dance. I just don't think it ever brings the crowd down by someone unskilled dancing. No, just do it. It's fun.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's not only fun, but it gets the energy up because people start gravitating around and feeling like, okay, well, if they're going to do it and they can't dance, I'm a little bit of a dancer, I'll do it too. And then the good ones come out and they start showing people what to do. And then the next thing you know, you got a line dance going or whatever, and it's fun. And that's how it goes. And we've learned so many things as children that that somehow impacted or influenced us. And they're deep-seated little programs of restriction, right? Don't do this unless you're good at it, or don't embarrass yourself, or don't show anybody that you have this weakness, and things like that. That it just really, it's sad because we just have to unprogram that stuff. And as soon as we uncover it, just unprogram it. That's all I can say. And I see example after example after example. I'll give you a law example. When I was early in my practice, I felt like I needed to demonstrate to other lawyers that I was competent and skilled and capable and a force to be reckoned with, right? So now new young lawyers show this to me. Now, at the time, I thought that was important. What I later learned is that I can sit and smile and talk casually and be very cordial and engaging with lawyers, but be in the right and be consistent and persistent with my position. And they eventually come around anyway, and they eventually come around to settling the case, and they're happy to do it, as opposed to getting into the warrior conflict where all we're doing is just pulling out swords and hitting against each other's shield, which doesn't get anything done. And this is just a simple example of my ego was in the wrong place when I first started at law. Now, a lawyer I've never met before, I'm very gracious. And if they're really nasty and they think they're getting somewhere, I just kind of giggle at it because I know where they've been and I know where they're going. And I know it's not going to influence the outcome of our result. And they're not going to get anywhere with it. And so they're expending all this extra energy for that instead of just really getting down to a real resolution. So that's an example, I think, in law, which makes it more of a fun lawyer, right? And I think that if you can do it in law, you can do it in anything, right?
You
don't have to be this ugly, slobbering bulldog that's pit bull. It's going to take the throat out of somebody to win. In fact, I've made a habit of winning. It's been very good. That's very good for me.
Let's transition to the being wrong segment now. And I'd imagine there's another story from your life about where you've recognized that the previous version of yourself was wrong about something. So as you've changed your mind on many things, Jim, which one strikes you as the story to share right now?
Well, I think because law has been so much of my life for 35 years, and because of some of the things that I've tried and done, I'll share this wrong that I developed. It's very competitive in the law business to advertise or to Google, to rank in Google. And you have lawyers, you see them, ads on the television and the radio and everywhere else. And I've really not gravitated to much of that, right? I don't do it because I haven't needed to. Most of my business is referral because we do a good job for people. And so, but I gained a certain amount of perspective on the SEO process, and I felt like I could really impact that. And then I developed these particular beliefs. At some point, I developed a belief that in order for you to accomplish something in the SEO world for law, that you'd have to have this big budget and spend all this money and do all these things. What I eventually realized was I was wrong. And it was profound because, again, had I gone to the right people and talked to the right people at that time, I could have easily dispelled that, that image of what I wanted to try and accomplish. And so, correspondingly, I'm playing a game of catch up. That is, I'm trying to, get my voice out there so that people, for instance, in this example, will hear what a law firm should be doing for them so that they will actually promote and look for law firms like mine. And I'm in California. I can't represent you anywhere in the country. I'm just in California, right? So my goal is not to just help people in California, but to help everybody. And so law firms start to recognize they need to do this in order for them to keep clients. Well, I have to do that in the SEO Google world when people are searching. And because of my prejudice or my thought process, I was really rejecting that concept. And I've been totally turned around on that by some influential communicators that have been telling me, no, you're wrong. You need to look at this from a different perspective. And now that I have, and I'm starting to see the results of that by getting out a message like this one today, I'm starting to realize, well, what an idiot I was. What was I thinking? And again, it's like, had I talked with the right people then, I would have had a whole different experience. But instead, I was talking to the wrong people. They were, thinking that I was talking to the right people. And I didn't have the judgment at that time to be able to say, look, these are the 4 or 5 key things that I think I need to understand. Are you with my vision is number one. Are you with my vision is number one. With every one of your guests, you'll want to ask them, are you with my vision?
I realized vision is going to have to be integrated into every episode moving forward because it's important to me. And I find that so many people maybe haven't thought about it the way that we just discussed it today. And I want to keep that going. And as you talk about the search engine optimization, that's something that I haven't done a good job at either. And I'm recognizing, yes, there's so many more things I can do and will be doing soon that will help get the word out now with previous episodes, this episode, and moving forward. So it's, I think, a real great timing that you have said that and used that as you're being wrong, because it's not something I've emphasized in the proper way. And perhaps there's others that are sitting in that same spot right now.
Yeah, particularly if you have a vision you want to announce. One of the three things that of the algorithm, it's a very simple formula. It's that Paul Rines talks about is visibility and value. So you're offering value, and you need to be visible, and you need to be influential, right? So those are the three things that make for success. And it goes very good job of explaining it. I don't want to go through it today, but the point of it is that one of those, the visibility, well, that is SEO. And if you don't have visibility, nobody knows about you. How often am I sitting in the background? Nobody even knows I'm a lawyer. Nanette tells a joke. It's not a joke. She tells the reality. When I first met her, she didn't know I was a lawyer for 7 months as I was dating her. I never discussed it with her. I discussed everything else, but it never came up. We just didn't talk about it. It wasn't important to me to discuss, my law practice. And isn't that funny? Isn't that interesting?
Maybe it's related to for me, not wanting to impose, or perhaps also being humble. Those things aren't directly related, but maybe it ties back into my wiring in some way, that I don't always want to interject the things I'm most proud of. But I'm going to leave this as an opportunity for you as we're wrapping up the conversation. We didn't cover a ton from the successes of your life. If there's anything that you want to mention that people can find, that I'll link in the show notes, that we can tag it right here, right now, people that have enjoyed hearing your story. What is it that, if you felt totally comfortable and felt like it was the right time to tell people, what would you tell them about yourself that you haven't mentioned yet?
That if you're trying to work on your vision, you want to send me an email, we'll leave a link. You can send me an email. If I can help you, I will. You want to call me about your case, that's fine. I'll be glad to talk to you about that. Even if you're out of California, I'll be able to help you, direct you in a process that you can go through to find the right person for you. And if you for sure have a crying, fussy baby, or you have cramps or stomach problems, well, then go onto the Happi Tummi site and help yourself, because it's a no drops or drugs remedy that works. And that has like 670 reviews or something on Amazon that are all positive. So it's a really good external product. It works amazing. So those are the kinds of things that I'm involved in. And, the more that I can impact lives, that's what I'm all about. It doesn't matter how I do that, whether it's, a mom struggling with a baby. By the way, shaken baby syndrome is heavily linked to colic, heavily linked, because you're frustrated, you don't know what to do. We really should have eliminated by now shaken baby syndrome in the United States. That's a cause you can get behind.
That sounds like a deep issue right at the end of this. And I haven't had a baby myself. I've been around some small children at times, and I can't imagine the struggle for the people that are really in the situation that led your wife, Nanette, to solve the problem, or at least put her best effort to do that, and now get the word out so other people can fix that problem as well.
And I'm sure if you wanted her on your show, I'm sure she'd be glad to do it. And she's very inspirational. She's me 10 over. She's way more inspirational and fun than I am. So there you go.
Well, she is. I've met her.
Lawyer.
She was there as well over the weekend, and yeah, I can see how you two are very dynamic together and pushing each other to do some great things in this world. Jim Ballidis, thank you. Anything else that you want to say before I turn off the microphones?
No. It was a real pleasure. I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope we'll do it again. We'll do some more. We'll think of some things that might be useful for you and your listeners to gander on.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Good. Bye now.